So gentlemen, what I thought I would do differently in this video is actually map out this concept of reverse engineering destiny and character creation, or I should say character recreation. Mental programming is a concept that many people mistake and get wrong, and often they find themselves treating the symptom rather than the cause or consequence of the person that they have become. But through this fancy little mind map, I thought I would share with you how that comes about. So we're going to start at the top here from Lao Tzu, who's the father of Taoism. And this is one of the key premises to understand when you're reverse engineering destiny. So it's what's your thoughts, they become your words. What's your words, they become your actions. What's your actions, they become your habits. Your habits become your character. And ultimately your character becomes your destiny. So your present situation is a simple consequence of the thoughts that most of you think at each and every given moment. And trying to address the bad habit or action, so you can kind of see again habits here and actions, is really futile in respects to changing your overall destiny. And that's why essentially the reason that many people will fail over and over and over again to address a bad habit or a bad character trait, because they just try to address the symptom. Oh, it's the symptom that I procrastinate often. But in fact, the cause, the kind of root, as it were, if it was like a weed in a garden, is rarely pulled out from the base. So we're going to talk about how does one treat the cause of their present reality. So we're going to come over down here to the frequent thoughts, becoming the stories that you tell yourselves. So we've already established kind of back here that it is actually thoughts that are the thing that we need to bring ourselves most attention to in any given moment, and they are essentially the programming that we have. But more accurately, it's these stories that become our programming. So there's an intimate relationship between thoughts and this concept of destiny, as we have established. But even more potentially pernicious than fleeting thoughts are repetitive thoughts, which become the stories that we tell ourselves. Now, the stories that we tell ourselves are based on remembered memories of those early initial experiences in our lives that give us a sense of identity. Nothing can replace the experience of the event itself. We only remember the story, which is those collections of thoughts about the event, which is often inaccurate depending on our biases. So I'm sure many of you would have heard of this idea that your memory is very inaccurate. And in fact, you're rarely remembering the event itself. You're remembering the thoughts you had about an event. So here's a stupid story that I tell myself. I mean, it's not a particularly stupid story, but it's, what would you say, not conducive to me enjoying myself or having a good outlook on life. So I used to tell myself that I was socially anxious, right? That's just a story that I use to identify myself. Like I would catch myself saying in social interactions when I meet people that I'm not good with meeting new people, right? And it's interesting how that particular thought came about. I mean, I think a couple reasons is one, I used it as relatability to try and make people feel more comfortable, because maybe sometimes other people don't feel also as comfortable in their skin. But it was based on a memory. It was based on, again, this remembered experience in early childhood, or childhood is a good example, in which I had a negative experience of meeting somebody new, right? It caused me some kind of anxiety, some kind of physiological feedback, such as, sweaty palms, increased heart rate, stomach cramps, and things like that. And then what I did is I kind of blew that interaction out, that small little one minor experience where I was uncomfortable, to, oh, this is me. I'm anxious when I meet new people because of this one small event. And if you keep tying neurons, you've heard the phrase, I'm sure, neurons that fire together, wire together. If you keep firing the neurons of your present moment back to those memory and tying some sense of identity to it, it starts to become, again, the story that you tell yourself every single day. And your subconscious is always listening. It's always grabbing onto the thoughts that you hold every single day. So that became a reality for me. And I was always anxious when meeting new people. I remember when I was in university and, my first year in university and you're meeting new people, I was always socially anxious because I kept telling myself that story. So like I've already said here, our identities are formed around the stories we tell ourselves and others every single day. So the question you have to be asking yourself, gentlemen, is what kind of stories are you telling yourself? And both of these concepts here, how does one treat the cause of their present reality and what stories are you telling yourself, can be rectified by writing our own stories. So it's becoming the conscious creator of our realities. And herein lies the solution that I came across in respects to mitigating, creating my destiny and creating a new character for me. So the first step is to evaluate how you describe yourself. And a good way to do this is, if you ever meet a new person, is to be very mindful and have a high degree of observation on the words and the language that you use to introduce yourself. How do you describe, let's say your part, not your past. Let's say the job that you work at. Is it, I'm just an email marketer. You kind of pass it off. Maybe there isn't much weight tied to it. Maybe you don't have a good sense of self-worth in that respect. Do you use a lot of self-deprecating humor? That's one that I used to do. I used to really kind of speak negatively about myself to, again, form a sense of identity and a sense of relatability. But in fact, it was having negative connotations on how I carried myself in social interactions. So that's step one. That takes a lot of self-awareness to be able to establish if you are talking about yourself in a negative light. It might be a good exercise to just write down on a piece of paper, and I've done this before, how you would introduce yourself to a random person on the street. So if you walked up to somebody and you said, maybe say if you were chatting somebody up, how would you introduce yourself? What would you say you did for work? What would you say your personality is like? What would you say you like to do for fun or you like to do in your leisure time? What would you say your goals are, your aspirations are? So evaluate how you talk to yourself. And this kind of ties into step 2 already, is highlight poor storytelling. So highlight in that self-description points where you're being self-deprecating, points where you're not being, points where you're lying about yourself, or points where you feel that this self-talk is not conducive to the man that you want to be. Step 3 is to create positive storytelling concepts. So this is another writing exercise in which you would take how you describe yourself, highlight those negative points, and you would start to reintroduce new storytelling concepts or habits. Habits is a better way to look at it, about how you introduce yourself to people or how you talk about yourself to people. Because, by the way, this is a habit, guys. This is a habit. I bet if you have the wherewithal to be conscious of it, that you usually tell the same kind of stories or same kind of what are they called, when you break the ice with somebody, the same kind of like jokes, the same kind of humor, the same kind of storytelling about yourself every single time, because it's become habit. It's been something ingrained into you, and it might not even be true. Like I said, I based all of my social anxiety on a minor event in my childhood that was just, again, 5 seconds of discomfort. And I blew that out into a thought that I told myself every single time. That thought became a story. That story became my identity. Yeah. So thoughts becoming the words, becoming the actions, becoming the habits, becoming the character. Right? So it all starts with those thoughts and the stories that you're telling yourself. So storytelling is really, really powerful in mental reprogramming. Now, this might be the most important step here. Is step number 4 is leverage theta brainwaves. So theta brainwaves are very impressionable brainwaves. They're your subconscious, access to your subconscious mind. And you can usually access them first thing in the morning, when you're starting to get drowsy for a nap, or when you're starting to get drowsy for bed. So in this particular brainwave, this is where you process information, and where you start to build memories. So this is literally the zone for reprogramming. What you want to do is you want to record yourself affirming those positive stories, or you could also do kind of mental affirmations around better storytelling concepts. So for me, I took my phone, and there's a microphone function on your iPhone on here, and I just talked into it saying, I am the instigator of social interactions. I keep social conversations flowing. I am full with confidence when I'm interacting with new people. I introduce myself with strength, composure, and humor, let's say, right? So you wanna start feeding your CPU, because this is what it is. It's a CPU. It's a computer. It's a supercomputer. Information of positive storytelling when it's in impressionable brainwaves. So I used to do this when I was living with back in my family home before I would go to bed, and I would feed myself this positive affirmations, storytelling. You can think about it, and it would have a profound impact in those social situations. It's really funny. You can. It's been a while since I've done this one particularly, but I remember whenever I was going into a social context, like I was, let's say, going to the pub and meeting new people, those affirmations would just be, that would be all I would be thinking about, is I'm the instigator of social interactions. And I would find myself getting up, going over to introduce myself to people, making it, a conscious effort to be the social butterfly, as it were. And again, it's pretty scary how powerful it can be. And then the last thing, you don't have to do the last thing, but I found this was kind of the a nice little neat bow on everything, was reality implementation. So it's sometimes not enough to just go through the mental rehearsal and listen to it, but you have to make it known in reality. So I will and have been, again, in my family home, in my bedroom, saying out loud these affirmations, and then going through almost like practicing what a social interaction will be like with those new positive storytelling concepts. So vocalize it, make it real. Like, how does it feel in your body when you're saying it? What do you sound like when you introduce yourself? Hello, my name's Joseph. I'm the owner of a self-improvement business. You actually practice introducing yourself. And again, this is just a social anxiety example. But say again, maybe you have difficulty speaking with women. I suppose that's social anxiety as well. Maybe you are I'm putting a dud here on the examples, but maybe it might be something like your ability to come across well in an interview, or something like that. I can't really think of a good example now, but whatever reality you would like to live, practice being the man you need to be for that reality. And it all comes back to this, guys. Again, so to get destiny, we have to think about the character we are. So this is who we self-identify as. And the only way we can self-identify with that individual is the habits that we have as a consequence of the actions we take, the words we say, which is all the root of the thoughts that we house every single day in the CPU, the programming in which the supercomputer runs. So stop addressing your bad habits. Stop saying, "Oh, I'm gonna quit smoking." You haven't integrated the program, the thoughts of an individual that doesn't smoke and who doesn't identify with smoking. It's the difference between saying that I'm trying to quit smoking rather than I don't smoke. This is really, really powerful stuff, guys. So fix the root, and the flower will bloom of its own accord. Let me know what you guys thought of this new kind of thought process. I actually really enjoy it. It's helping me think very clearly and consciously and intelligently, and helps me better grasp the concept, and I hope you guys were following. So if you enjoyed that, and as always, take what is valuable, discard which is not, and I'll bring you something else very, very soon. Take care.